podcast. This is episode 123, and I'm with Rosie Mangan. Quit didn't ask how to pronounce her name, but I assume that's right because I'm used to that name of it. So Rosie can tell me now if that's incorrect. Is that correct, Rosie Mangan?
Absolutely correct.
Great,
Spot on.
perfect. Thank you. But before I talk to Rosie, with the pause for a word from my sponsor. Concussion Talk podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. And please just follow me on social media. So Good Pods, if you don't have Good Pods yet, get Good Pods app, which is all your podcasts you want to know and rate and review and hear others and stuff. So it's a great app. I'm at Concussion Talk there on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And my website is www.concussiontalk.com. And please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, because that would help me out a lot. And probably, again, I say this probably more, but there probably is more, but forget all that stuff. We'll just start with talk to Rosie now. So I just met Rosie just then, so this will be a time for us to all meet Rosie together. So Rosie, thank you so much for being on this podcast and coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And Rosie, do you work with ABI Ireland, or do you just do work for them, like a volunteer base? Not sure.
I'm a researcher. I was working in the University of Stirling in Scotland, but my contract recently came to an end. So I'm currently unemployed, but very much enjoying my recovery.
Oh, there you go. So perfect. So now I get Rosie before I answer that question. But Rosie, just to introduce herself, just generally, who is Rosie Mangan, and also, I guess let's start with that.
I guess at the moment I'm kind of learning about the new version of myself.
Right.
Because prior to my accident, which was in November 2019, I would have been quite outdoorsy. I loved going for walks and runs and hikes up mountains. I cycled everywhere.
Okay, good.
That was my primary mode of transport. And I just love the outdoors. I love nature. So I kind of now my mobility is quite different.
Yeah, I know it takes a while.
Yeah, I'm a wheelchair user. So
Right.
I'm become accustomed to seeing the outdoors from my wheelchair. And actually, one thing I did very interesting last summer, I heard that Ireland are doing beach wheelchairs.
Oh yeah.
I decided, you know what, I'm going to try it out.
Yeah.
And running into the sea when you're controlling running in,
Right.
and when you hit the cold water, it's not so bad. But when you get pushed in, when you hit that cold water, it's quite a shock.
Oh, right. So but it's just bigger treads. Is that the deal?
Yeah, like it kind of looks. I described it as it looks like a moon unit kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just so nice to see that in Ireland they're making areas accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
It's nice for a float around.
Yeah. I love swimming. I love the outdoors too. So what do you study? I'll wait to after, but you assume you study biology at university, and we will get that not in depth because this is of course a brain injury podcast, so we'll focus on that. But we'd like to learn more about entomology. That I know Rosie is doing work with the pesticides, biocontrol. So I'll ask you a bit about that at the end there. But first of all, so I know I saw a bunch of your tweets trying to get. I figured I thought I get to know Rosie a bit before, then I thought, no, we'll let her just tell her story on the podcast. But I went through your Twitter just briefly, and briefly, but I went through Twitter and did a lot on right rehab, and you also mentioned that you are also doing neural rehab now. So
Yeah.
I guess you can just talk with those two things together. So talk about your neuro rehab and why red rehab is a big thing you're campaigning for.
I guess my neuro rehab has been going on since my accident. And in Ireland, there's a big focus on acute rehab.
Right.
And I would say I did make progress in the acute stage of my rehab.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, what I found and what I found talking to the brain injury community in Ireland, that rehab needs to be very persistent throughout your life.
Yeah.
Because, your gains can be so incremental, they almost seem non existent, but they very slowly creep up over time.
Yeah.
Like I myself, um, I have a research background, so I collect lots of data on myself.
Oh,
And maybe 6 months ago, I couldn't move my knee because
yeah.
it was completely paralyzed. And now it's got slight movement in it. I think if I hadn't collected the data, I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And I am also with the right to rehab, having spoken to other members of the brain injury community, they're not getting access to the service they need. And what the frightful thing that happens in that is that those services that they need could result in much better outcomes for their recovery, and if they don't get them, it actually has much more expensive medical costs in the long run. And I really want to campaign for much better rehabilitation across Ireland for everybody, as for brain injury survivors, because rehabilitation is a human right under the UN rights. And and I'm going to hopefully collect lots of data on how the prevalence of brain injury in Ireland, the prevalence of lack of services, and I'll be able to campaign to the government for much better service for everybody.
Oh, great.
I'm doing that with Acquire Brain Injury Ireland, and the lady I'm working with is called Aoife Lucy, and she has been fantastic to work with. I've really enjoyed it.
Nice. So evil, I mean, okay. EOIFE. No.
Nearly AOIFE.
Oh, see, that's close though. Pretty
Yeah,
fast. But yeah. So we had, like I said, last year. I told you before that. Well, we had I had Barbara O'Connell on from
yeah,
the President. So she was on in last about this time last year, but earlier in May, but just like a week or so earlier. But anyway, what days it's heck, maybe this day exactly a year ago. But yeah, so we did you, and if you don't mind, because we haven't talked about this, but your accent. So like, how did you come to be involved with ABI Ireland and ABI in general?
so I was away for work in Brazil in 2019, and I was a passenger in a car that had a car accident.
Okay.
And then I was in hospital for a year. And after I got discharged from hospital, I got connected with Acquire Brain Injury Ireland. And now I work with an occupational therapist called Grace and a psychologist called Brian. And I see them very regularly with ABI, and they are both fantastic.
Yeah. I know there's like a big. I know my therapist where I just immediately bonded with them. Physio is not the main thing I was focused on, but still, but the other therapists were just great, just as great, and I just was like focused on mostly on that. But yeah, they you get such a deep connection with them, even if they're just like because you see them so much and just such a core part of who you are and
Yeah,
what you want to be and stuff. So it's hard not to find that they're more like, almost like family.
yeah, I guess they're in a kind of unusual situation where they're getting to know you as you're getting to know the new version of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they may not realize it, but they have quite a big influence on the person that you become.
Yeah,
And I think that's very special.
yeah,
Like, there's a little bit of Grace and Brian in me, but there's also little bits of Emma, my physiotherapist. I have a community rehab OT called Shane. You know, I've got little bits of their personality and my personality now.
exactly. Yeah, it's hard to not do. Which I mean, because that's why you look this fondness on your therapist because you want to think that you're like them because you think they're so great, but and then they I don't know they don't really ever seem to see their flaws, which I'm sure they have, which I don't know, but I mean, they in you they seem to just think that you're this totally different person, but you are a different person. But you're also part, like you said, part of like you're partly them because they kind of shaped you, then knew you.
I think the brain injury community in general in Ireland has also shaped the person I've become.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you can talk about that. How big? So, how did you become involved with? You said you came to Brain Island after your injury in Brazil. So, how did that happen then? And how are they such an important part of your life now?
So my occupational therapist put me in touch with Grania from ABI, and I think it was maybe because I had a research background. I was quite comfortable doing a lot of public speaking, and I was quite happy to talk to other people about my brain injury, and
Right.
that kind of connect that they like that connection.
Yeah.
And I was really happy. I guess kind of the way I've always put it, I want to make lemonade out of the lemon that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just thought, if I can help other people and I can make their recovery go much more smoothly than mine has gone in fighting for services, well, that's a whopper amount of lemonade. It could
It
make
is.
a big difference to people's lives.
You can give a big sale.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your rehab. So you started rehab in Brazil or in when you got back to Ireland?
I think, well, I was in a coma when I was in Brazil,
Okay.
but I think they did move me around the physiotherapy. I did passive movement while
Okay.
I was there. And then I started doing physio in the hospital I was in, and then I got moved to a rehabilitation hospital for 7 months.
Okay.
And now the physiotherapy I'm doing is with a foundation called On Sale.
On sale?
Yeah, and they're a specialist neurological rehabilitation physiotherapy centre. And I'm working with a couple of people there. So I'm working with Orla, Oran, Cormac, Bertha, Laura, and actually there's a Canadian physiotherapy master student called Rebecca.
Okay.
I think she said she was from Yukon, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's not
Um,
near here.
and they're a real special bunch of people. And
Yeah.
I've met some really great people in there from the brain injury community because I'd never met anybody else that had a traumatic brain injury until I went to On Sale.
Were you like me, didn't know anything about brain injury until you were your brain injured yourself?
Um, my sister's fiance, his dad had a brain injury
Okay.
many years ago. So, but I have to be honest, my knowledge of it was very limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was told I got a brain injury in hospital, I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, I don't know anything about this."
That sounds bad, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. Right. Okay. So could you just put your neuro? It's called they have Neurorehab. And we tried to set a time for this podcast, and you said yeah you couldn't do this day because you had Neurorehab. And so what do you do in Neurorehab?
Um, a lot of what I'm doing is upper limb and lower limb stuff. So
Okay.
trying to, for the weaker muscles, I'm trying to build up strength in them muscles. And then I've got a lot of spasticity where the muscles are quite tight. I'm trying to stretch them out so I can use them in functional tasks. Like one of the upper limb movements I'm working on is reaching out to grab a bottle or a glass
Yeah.
so I can take a drink of water out of it.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Yeah. Which, I mean, doesn't sound all that complicated, but I think it's going to take me a long time to get there.
It takes that effort to think about it, get your mind to connect with your arm and your brain. Sorry, your arm. Yeah, I know. I remember those days. It took a lot more energy than people thought. Like even later on, it just takes more energy than you think. That just connect your brain with your limbs and with your muscles in your body. So it's I don't know exactly because I don't know your exactly position, but I know my recovery was like that was very tough. Looking back though, it's just something I wouldn't. Sounds weird to say, but I wouldn't change that of my life. Like as much I love like cycle, like really good at like cycling and playing water polo and swimming and being outdoors and stuff. After before my injury, I wouldn't change anything because like wouldn't change the range at all because you learn so much and like you're saying your progress is incremental, but it's also you get big gains and then nothing, then like then flat, then big gains, then nothing, then little gains, then nothing. And it's like or you meet so when you get nothing, you feel like you're going down, but you're reversing everything, but you're not obviously. And yeah, so I mean that's a little spiel about that, but yeah, it's such an important part of it. Like you see the world in such a different way that's just kind of opens up that I don't know fear of anything dissipates and not there was a lot of fear, but there's like none now, and it's just I don't know, it's just honestly, it may be one of the best things that ever happened to me. Is to getting brain injury, as awful as that sounds, but like it's just for me personally. Now, not for everybody, but it's like
No, I understand because after I woke up in hospital, lots of people came in and told me how I should be so angry.
yeah,
Well, what happened? I said, but I can't be angry about something I can't change.
yeah, exactly,
But I can choose to what feeling I have towards my what I can change, and I can influence my recovery. I think having a positive outlook and being well, just being determined and being hopeful of hope. And yeah, it was obviously an awful thing to happen to both of us.
yeah.
But I think it's made me the person I am today. I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
It's also part of like it's just part of your whole life journey, and just it's just kind of part of this whole experience of being alive, which is again I mean, that's my meditation thing, but also that just you think of your whole life is just well, you probably do biology too. I think biology led me down the way the thing too. And speaking of which you were you're at what university were you at Scotland? You were at
Sterling.
Sterling. Sterling, first Sterling, Scotland, first Sterling, Scotland. So I assumed in Sterling. And so what did you do? You were obviously now before you're in Brazil and Branger, you're still obviously doing a lot of work and you're still alive and doing and exist and doing what you want to do. So what were you doing at Sterling?
I was studying insects and I was looking at harmful insects and how they impact mankind. So the insects I was looking at eat food that we're trying to produce.
Yeah.
And then I was researching biocontrol and sustainable agriculture, and then looking at how we would investigate the evolutionary capacity, adaptive capacity of insect pests to deliver better ways of controlling them. Because we use a lot of chemical pesticides to control insects.
Yeah.
They're very damaging to biodiversity.
Of course, yes.
So we want to look at more environmentally benign pesticides
Oh,
that
yeah.
will be less environmentally damaging.
Hear that quack? That's my phone. Anyway, yeah. So So you look. I don't want to get too much into biology, but I was asked a general question. So you look at chemicals that other insects put off, or do you look at other insects that help to eat the insects that are eating your plants, or do you look at say chemicals that they put off that may kill these insects?
Now we found a fungus that kills insects.
Okay.
It's it's an it's a fungus that breeds on insects and kills them, but it's not damaging to other insects, or not as damaging as chemicals.
And it's actually not damaging the plants or not as damaging.
No, it doesn't damage the plants at all because
Okay.
it's specific to the insect.
So what is the most important about I'll do a little version here into this, but go back to your friend ABI Ireland. So where are you now? You're in Dublin, or are you?
I'm in Ireland, in County Offaly, in the centre of the country.
Okay, I was in Ireland just once in 2018, and I went just Dublin, Galway to Belfast
Lovely.
Dublin to we spent one night in Limerick, then Galway, then Belfast, and we just landed in Dublin, went back. We stayed in Dublin at the end there, but
Yeah,
you're
that's
so you're in Kent,
in Offaly.
awfully worse, which is
It's bang in the centre of the country.
oh yeah, okay. So there's the ABI Ireland. So I know we're talking to Barbara, and I know Barbara is based in Dublin. ABI Ireland is mostly, but there's still a lot of services across the country.
Yeah, yeah. There's one very close to me. It's called Mount Bolus.
So what is it's a hospital, or it's a center, like how does that work?
They have a residential unit where people can go and live there if they choose.
Okay, is that what that is? And that's not where you are now, or is that where you are now?
No, I'm living at home at the moment.
Okay, and your home is in Kent, is in Offaly, say,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and how big is that place?
Um, guess there's 5 bedrooms, and it's good for me because it's a bungalow.
Okay, perfect. Well, there you go. So, man, you're saying before your injury, you loved nature and loved cycles, what you did to get around. So how has that changed now? I mean, obviously you can't cycle anymore, but or right not anymore, but right now you can, it's difficult. But so how has that changed the way you like what you do for your activities, your extracurricular recreation activities?
So my occupational therapist Shane got me a powered wheelchair. So I've got a lot more independence if I want to go for, well, a roll,
Yeah.
because I live quite close to the canal here.
Oh yeah, that's in.
And there's some beautiful walks along the canal.
Is it paved, or is it at least
It's all paved. Yeah.
do you need it to be paved? Because I know the trail I walk on now because I can walk now. It's only because I can, only because I didn't like with that. But there are no in St. John's. There's a path that was gravel, was a well used gravel path that was just taken care of and well maintained, I think. But they're going to make it in the process of making it paved for like cyclists and wheelchairs. So did you find that to be a good thing that is paved, or
Yeah, it's quite easy for me to get around because
so?
it's nice and paved.
And you're saying because you know you're big, you're advocating for and campaigning for this right to rehab and for disability accessibility in Ireland. So,
Yeah.
what do you think are the important things that people need to know about accessibility and disability? Most important things for
I think in terms of barriers for people with disabilities, like there's so many physical barriers that
yeah,
we experience on a daily basis. And like maybe the way people park their cars up onto footpaths, I
right,
think that's a little bit selfish because they don't think that they're putting people with disabilities into a prayer situation. We have to drive it, or we have to go out onto the road into traffic to
yeah,
pass their car.
right, right.
Or often I see people park in disabled parking spots when they don't have the pass to go there, and it's just like they just can't be bothered to look for a parking space a little bit further away.
Yeah, exactly.
And people with disabilities need those parking spaces because we need a little bit extra room to get in and out of the car.
Right.
So I think sometimes it's very tempting to get a little bit angry at people, but I found that that's not the best approach. It's better to spend time educating people, um, so that we can change things in a more productive way. And that's what I'm hoping to do.
Uh,
I was recently at the National Rowing Centre in Cork on
I
the
saw
west
a
side.
few tweets. Yeah. So what happened there?
Yeah, and I was trapped in the car for the day while my fiance Connor was going rowing, and I was really excited to be able to go out and see him row, but there was nowhere for me to move my chair on the gravel. So I spoke to the people at Rowing Ireland, and they were really keen to help it get changed. And we exchanged emails, and I said I'd write an email to help. And that I've spent a couple of days writing the email, and it's been a couple of weeks since they've received it. And I've sent a prompt since then. I haven't had any response or acknowledgement of my email. I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I just kind of feel like they're all smoke and mirrors on the day.
Yeah.
And the one thing I really want them to change is because we looked on the website before we went down, there was no mention of accessibility on the website.
No.
And they said they would change that immediately, and there's nothing has been changed on the website. Because I wouldn't have spent a couple of hours in the car getting there
Yeah.
if I'd known I was going to be trapped in the car for the day.
Right. Right. So did you row before, or did your fiance just rowed himself, or did you row?
No, I used to row. I was a member of Rowing Ireland when I was in school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to go rowing along the canal. I loved it with the
Yeah.
Off Rowing Club.
I have a friend here who's does this sailing for disabled for sailing the laser, like small boats sailing, like one sail, small boats, but also bigger boats too, and it's a great program in Newfoundland too. I think this part of Canada, so Newfoundland and Labrador did in province, but Newfoundland's the end of the island. But yeah, so I know how like difficult the last sports to get around to, not just to obviously you disable last sports are trickier to do because the Paralympics I think it's great, but like Paralympics are great, but they're also difficult for people to get a start in them unless they're just like because there's not an equal sort of way into them than there are for difficult to get to places that have accessibility or these Paralympic sports to get to and need the extra costs to get there yourself and so it's just the whole thing. I mean that's just the way seems to be the way it is, which is unfortunate, but practically it's hard to right now because right I'm sure there'll be another time when there's come a time and hopefully when people listen to this in the future and they'll know a better way. But right now it's not my I'm out of the I can't think of how we can make it easier because you can't just like expect things to change when they're so difficult for certain people, certain seconds. Sorry, look, you wanted to talk.
No, I think we will change things if we keep chipping away.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do about it. But I don't want to do it to talk the whole thing. But I guess did you have anything else you wanted to add about your background or your work there or your research?
Um, I guess my research at the moment is taking a bit of a back seat because I'm concentrating on my recovery right now.
Okay. And so when's your next rehab session? Do you do, and also I guess I'll kind of repeat that the parts where do you do just one rehab, one like OT for one session, or do you want to do a whole day of OT, physio, speech, whatever?
Um, so I do I go to on sale for physio Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and
Awesome.
do 2 hours each day, and
Intense.
do an hour on my upper limb and an hour on my lower limb.
Yes.
And I kind of we all swap around with the people that we're working with, depending on whether it's upper limb or lower limb. And then I also do physiotherapy on a Wednesday with Emma in Offaly,
Wow.
and I see my psychologist Brian every Friday. And I was doing singing lessons with my friend Jen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I was on a ventilator when I was in my coma, and
Yeah.
that kind of
Please.
slightly changed my vocal cords because I was
Yeah.
very monotone
Yeah, I know.
and
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I was very breathy.
Yeah.
And I used to do singing lessons with Jen every Tuesday, and they were so much fun.
Okay, I see what you trick siblings, I guess you're gonna say
Yeah.
brother and sister. Yeah, you get all trick. Yeah. But so what do you sing there? The with the on I'm just saying.
Jen had a couple of really good ideas where she wanted me to stretch or we're working on vocal closure
Okay.
called. So we're doing scales where we're going up in notes and then down and then up again. It's kind
Oh,
of, it was really interesting. And then we're looking at, like, we did so much work on breathing.
yeah.
My breathing just became so much stronger because prior to doing work with Jen, I couldn't talk for more than 5 minutes and I'd be completely out of breath.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of months working with Jen, now I can talk for an hour and totally fine.
Right. So did you sing beforehand before this, or I mean, except for like at home alone in the shower or whatever, like stuff like
I
that.
used to sing in a Scottish Gaelic choir when I lived in Stirling.
Oh yeah. So do you want to sing more Scottish Gaelic stuff, when you can get your vocal range back up, or do you want to
Um,
sing more pop tunes, pop songs?
I
Or
guess I would like to go back and sing with the Gaelic choir at least once because I only joined it before I went to Brazil
yeah, okay,
and then I never got to go back. And it'd be great to see all those people again.
right. So now this is totally not etymology and not brain injury, but it's I guess linguistics. I guess. So how is Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaels, like how are they different to some, like what is the difference? Obviously,
Um,
they're different on island and different islands, but
some pronunciations are slightly different. Like, I think the way they pronounce how AE is in sentences,
yeah,
I always got it slightly wrong on my first attempt.
yes,
But I think this might be the case when you're learning a language. If you're singing it, it's quite easy to learn it.
you figure
Yeah, like adding a bit of
that's true.
harmony to learning
First,
a language.
yeah, like first Jacques
I
and
guess it's just adding fun to learning. So,
I
can
guess yeah, because you learn all these songs. I know in Canada at least you learn those French songs when you're young, but just like little lullabies and like just but everyone knows them. But everyone that knows them, I'm sure in the States they probably do the same thing with Spanish songs or some places at least do. And like, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess I can see what you mean. That would be easier to learn, but you have a bit of fun when you're doing it. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for joining this, Rosie. Do you like Rosie, or I saw your email was Rosemary? Do you like? I know if you like Rosie more because you have that as
yeah,
your name on Twitter, but
everyone calls me Rosie, so let's go with Rosie.
Rosie. Well, thank you so much, Rosie, and Yes,
Thank you.
and good luck with your rehab. Geez, you have rehab physio like 5 days a week at least. So and good luck with your singing and your entomology and all that. So thank you so much for being on this podcast, and I hope
Thank
people
you.
learned a lot. Thank you for listening. Music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.